Welcome to the Secrets of Confident Women podcast, where you'll learn all the best tips, tricks, and practical techniques for building the confidence levels you've always wanted. With inspiring interviews, real-life examples, and game-changing insights, this podcast is for women who know that mastering the skill of confidence is one of the most important things they'll ever do.
Hello and welcome back to the Secrets of Confident Women podcast. I'm Jodie and we're so happy you're here because today's podcast is actually really important and so relevant to what's going on in the world at the moment. But first, let me introduce Anastasia. Welcome back, Anastasia.
Hey Jodie, and hi everyone. I'm really glad you guys are here too because today's podcast topic is awesome and it applies to everyone. Look, today we'll be talking about how confident women embrace change and what they do to use it to their advantage. And I really can't wait to get stuck into it because I know this is so important to so many people around the world at the moment.
Oh my God, it really is. Now, I love this topic because even though everyone will be able to relate to it in 2020, which has been one of the biggest years of change that we've ever seen,
Sure has.
it's also a topic that is always relevant because people are always facing change on a daily basis in so many different ways, and change can be scary. But today we'll be talking about why change is actually good for you and how you can use it in your life to boost your confidence. So let's get right into it. But before we start talking about all the great things associated with change, I want to quickly go through what change looks like in real life. Now, we could be talking about a change in your work life or a career change or even a change in your family situation. I mean, maybe you've just had a baby or two, or your relationship may have broken down. Or you might be starting a business or even winding one up. Or maybe you've recently lost some weight or had some health issues that you need to deal with. Whatever the change is, it will always come with baggage. And by baggage, I mean a whole range of emotions that always accompany change wherever it goes. Fear, uncertainty, excitement even, and hesitation are just a few of the main emotions that will always pop up when change is occurring in our lives.
Yeah, definitely. And don't forget about self-doubt, right?
Yeah,
because that's
sure.
always a big one for me. I mean, every time something changes in my life, I always start questioning whether I can handle it. Am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Am I strong enough to deal with this? And sadly, I think sometimes the self-doubt that I bombard myself with is actually worse than the change itself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, self-doubt is actually one of the first emotions you'll generally experience when change is occurring, along with fear. And for me, that's the big one. It's fear of the unknown. It's fear of repeating past mistakes. It's fear of making the wrong decision. There's always fear when it comes to change, but that's actually really great. You see, when change is happening in your life, feeling fear is actually quite normal because change and fear both live on the edge of your comfort zone, which is exactly where you want to be living your life, right? Right on the edge of your comfort zone. I mean, look, you can live your life within your comfort zone if you want to, where it's safe and predictable and easy, but it's also very boring. I mean, nothing much happens when you're safely tucked away within your comfort zone. And this is not where confident women live. Where confident women live and where you actually want to be is right on the edge of your comfort zone, where you know that you're pushing your boundaries, trying new things, and living the life you really want.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's so true. Imagine a life with no change, really.
Oh my God.
I know. I actually find that even more terrifying.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, we all know it. Not changing can lead to just complete stagnation, just really low levels of motivation and confidence. You don't really want to do anything. Which means if you're not constantly adapting to new things and new situations, then you'll just continue to maintain the status quo. And I'm pretty sure we all know where that will get you. It's the same old automated, predictable Groundhog Day type of life, which as far as I'm concerned sounds totally awful.
I know, right? I know. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's talk about a few of the ways that confident women actually embrace change and use it to their advantage. So the first way is probably the key to it all, which is to think of change in a different way. You see, confident women see change as a good thing, and that is what shifts their entire perspective. I actually have this mantra that I use all the time when I'm faced with change, which is the mantra, everything is working out perfectly.
Yes, I've heard this many times.
You've said yes. And I've taught that to a few people, a few friends and a few of my clients, but that is my definite go-to mantra all the time.
It's a great thing to hear and a great thing to say.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
And look, I'm that woman who stresses about things in the middle of the night. Like, I'm the one who wakes up at 3 a.m. with a million things running through my head, and I just can't get myself back to sleep because I can't slow my brain down. And I'm sure there are a ton of you out there who do exactly the same thing. In the middle of the night, I'm dealing with anxieties that arise because of change. Because you know what? The world is really scary at 3 a.m. And I'm always questioning how things will turn out. And I'm analyzing hundreds of possible scenarios, and sometimes often the worst case ones. And obviously, this doesn't put me in the best frame of mind to deal with change. So I often have to rely on my default mantra that everything is working out perfectly. And I repeat this to myself over and over again to actually rewire my brain, to remove the anxieties and slowly get myself to a better place, a place where everything does actually work out perfectly. You see, it's all about embracing the change by managing your thoughts and emotions, because it's the change of mindset that actually matters more than the change of circumstances.
Yep.
So the secret we want you to understand here is that change is not always a bad thing.
Yeah, that is so true. I mean, how many people do we know who just resist change, right?
I know.
Because they expect it to be bad. They
Yeah.
always expect the worst from change. But the truth is, confident women actually know that change can drive you into action, and it can give you the opportunity to face your fears and your hesitation and your self-doubt head on. And that's actually really great for your confidence because it forces you to make decisions that you otherwise might not have made on your own.
Yeah.
I mean, by getting into action and managing the emotions that come with change, you'll automatically start increasing your confidence because you'll start to see that you really can handle anything that comes your way. And look, I totally agree, Jodie. I think this is the key.
Yeah.
Just to stop seeing change as being a bad thing or something that needs to be avoided at all costs, because our instinct as human beings, right, is to always expect the worst.
Yeah, for sure.
And we just actually need to rethink the idea that change is always negative, because it's not. Change will take you to a more positive place, but it all depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, exactly. The trick is to remain open-minded about where you could end up and not always expect the worst, because you really don't know what's coming. I mean, you might think you know, you might think you can predict the outcome based on past experiences, but the truth is you don't know what's coming. I mean, none of us really do.
Yeah, that's so true. All right, so I've got a story here, right?
Yeah.
So I have this friend who really did not like their job. I mean, it honestly made them miserable, like so many people.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just their job. It was the whole industry that they were in. They just really wanted out. But they never did anything about it because it was just too hard. I mean, you know, they had a family to support and bills to pay. And the idea of starting again from scratch was obviously pretty scary. And look, I bet there are thousands of people in this position, right? I mean, sometimes it's just easier and safer to stick with what's familiar, you know, better the devil you know, right?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, this friend was then retrenched from their job, which was awful to begin with. But then they slowly started to realize that they'd actually been given a gift, right? They were actually finally forced to do something about the job that they hated and something that they probably would never have done on their own. So they decided to start their own business. And it was based on something that they've always wanted to do, something that they were really passionate about. And honestly, they have never been happier. They're loving their work now. They're so much happier and more confident as well. And most importantly, their perspective on change has shifted dramatically, because the negativity and the fear that they usually associated with change were now replaced with like excitement and passion. And now their mind is always open to new opportunities that they might not have seen otherwise, because, you know, and it's only because they shifted their perspective on what change looked like for them that they got to this new place, because all of a sudden change wasn't that scary anymore.
Oh, yeah. God, I love that. And it's such a great attitude to have when it comes to change, because if you're always looking for the silver lining, then you know what? You'll always find it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there are so many people who make amazing life transformations and work decisions, but only after they're forced into it. And I know this for a fact because it happened to me.
Yes,
so
it did.
Back in 2001, I'd been working in the hospitality industry for many, many, many years, and I'd just about had enough. I was so ready to leave the industry and was trying to navigate my way out of it. But I didn't know where to start. Look, I'd already started my coaching studies, but I couldn't quite get myself out of the hospitality industry just yet. I mean, it's a very addictive industry if you've ever worked in it. But then September 11 happened and everything changed.
Right.
The hospitality industry was just shaken up overnight. I mean, it went pretty much into free fall, which is very similar to what's happening now with coronavirus.
Yeah.
And the world just changed dramatically within weeks. Nobody was traveling. They grounded planes. It was just full on. It was really crazy. And then
Changes all over the place, right?
there was forced change,
Yeah.
right? And then I found out that I got retrenched. So after that initial shock, I started slowly to realize that life, and this change in particular, had actually given me the kickstart I needed to start my business. And now, in hindsight, still running my business all these years later, I realized that it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. But at the time, it was really scary.
Yeah.
So, we see it's really up to you to decide if you're going to be that person who resists change every time and whinges about it or only ever looks at the negative, or whether you'll choose to be the woman who embraces it and looks for a positive opportunity.
I want to be that woman.
Yeah, for sure.
I totally want to be that woman.
Yeah, I mean, it's just,
It just makes sense, right?
well, I mean, especially for forced change, if
Yeah.
it's happening anyway, it's like,
Whinging about it won't make it better.
it's not going to make it better. It's really not going to change. And it actually will make it
Worse. Yeah,
right?
totally.
So it is that attitude of really just taking it on, especially when it's things that are to a point outside your control.
Yeah, you make the most of it, right?
Yeah. And it's this sort of attitude which leads us to the next way that confident women embrace change.
Right.
So confident women know that change makes you more adaptable to new environments and new people, which means less likely to freak out every time something new happens.
True.
And it also means they'll use every change they're faced with as an opportunity to learn and grow. Look, sometimes we all feel stuck in our lives, like we're running non-stop on that little hamster wheel, but we're never actually getting anywhere. So if that's how you're feeling, think of change as the little stick that someone jams into the wheel that disrupts the monotonous round and round motion. I mean, change is actually one of the best ways to get unstuck if fear, self-doubt, or hesitation have got you trapped somewhere that you just do not want to be. And it'll lead to some of the best self-discovery journeys you'll ever take in your life. You see, sometimes it takes a forced change to move you forward in a direction that you might have been, too scared to take on your own, which might actually be the best thing for you. And by embracing change and using it to learn and grow, you'll be forced to test your limitations and expand those limiting beliefs that you may have been hanging on to for such a long time.
Right. And that can only be a good thing.
Can only be a good thing. By learning and growing through change, you'll slowly start to realize that you can do it, that you didn't die,
Yep.
and that the result wasn't anywhere near as terrible as you thought it would be. And this applies to all types of change, personal or professional. but only you can make the choice about what change will look like for you and what lessons that you'll learn every time.
Oh my God, that is so true. And you're actually so right. I mean, all of the most confident women I know are actually really adaptable.
Yeah.
They roll with the punches all the time and they're always looking for the silver lining because they know it's there.
Yeah.
And they're the type of women who are always trying new things and, pushing the boundaries of their comfort zone because they're not afraid to pivot when they need to.
Yeah.
Which I think takes us to our third and final way that confident women embrace change, right?
It sure does. Okay, so one of the most crucial ways that confident women embrace change is by always using it to consistently practice their confidence building techniques.
Right.
So we've just talked about using change as an opportunity to learn and grow, but when it comes specifically to confidence, this is the most essential part. Confident women actually use change to practice the techniques that they need to create and maintain the confidence levels that they want. Look, as we've already discussed, change always comes with fear, self-doubt, and some hesitation. But these emotions will not manage themselves. It's actually up to you to get into action and make a conscious effort to learn the right techniques that will help you manage them.
Right.
You see, when you're faced with fear because of a big change or a transformation in your life, you can either let that fear control you and dictate your decisions, or you can use confidence techniques to manage the fear and get through the situation in the best possible way. And over time, change will actually allow you to become more comfortable with the feeling of fear, especially if you have the right techniques to deal with it. And then the better you become at adapting to change and managing your fears, the easier it will be for you to deal with change and fear every time you're faced with them.
Oh, look, that just makes sense to me.
Yes.
The more you do something, the better you get at it.
That's right.
With anything.
Yeah.
And I think the same goes for self-doubt and hesitation too, right?
Exactly. The more you practice getting through them, the easier it will be for you to get into action and deal with them every time they arise. And the more your confidence will increase because you'll know that now you're that woman, the woman who gets into action and who can deal with anything that comes her way.
Okay, so in a nutshell, we're basically saying that if you shift the way you think about change, and if you learn and grow from it every time, and if you use change to practice your confidence building techniques to manage things like fear and self-doubt, then you will become a more confident woman, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So these are the three main reasons why change is actually good for your confidence and why confident women will embrace it every chance they get. And here's an extra little tip that you might find really handy.
Great.
Whenever you are faced with change in your life, rest assured that you are not the first person this has ever happened to. There is always someone else who has dealt with something very similar. So take advantage of that. Find people who have gotten through similar difficult situations and learn from them. Surround yourself with positive go-getters who can help you navigate any transformation in your life and use any resources you can get your hands on to learn and grow from the change. And don't forget that every time you deal with change, every time you deal with fear and self-doubt, and every time you work through these emotions and you learn to manage them, you will become a more confident woman, because this is what confident women do. They use techniques and skills that they've learnt, practiced, and mastered to become a person who can handle anything that comes their way.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I mean, dealing with change is a really great way to practice the techniques that you can use to become a more confident woman. Mm-hmm. And look, this is what we talk about all the time, right?
Yeah.
That there are very real and practical ways that you can work on increasing your confidence if you know how.
Yeah.
So we hope this episode has given you some great insights into how you can actually embrace change and use it to become a more confident woman. And if you liked what you heard, please remember to subscribe and feel free to leave a review so we can keep bringing you all the best secrets of confident women.
Yep, or head over to risewomen.com where we've got lots more information and resources to help you boost your confidence. And till next time, remember, with confidence, anything is possible. Bye for now.
Bye.